So I want to take some time and share something that is very profound that I have come to really appreciate in the recent years of my career, having seen a lot of transformation, a lot of changes, a lot of new things come in and a lot of old things go, and a good number of fundamentals remain unchanged. First of all, for those of you who may not be very conversant about what I do, we have, I'm the creative director of two different entities, but two entities that work together. Number one, we have Photo Magic Studio, which is what most people know. Definitely, photography work, videography work is something that when you're working on it, you meet people, you're in the room, you're in the studio, you're in the field, and you have to meet the people that you're working with, the people that you're photographing, the people that you're taking videos of or with. So most people know Photomagic Studio, which is a video and photo production company. We do a lot of event work, documentary, social media content, live streaming, and everything in between there. And then Photomagic has a bigger sister, which most of you do not know, but it is called Pinkfoot Digital. And the official name is Pinkfoot Consult Limited. And Pinkfoot Digital is actually the first business that I registered back in 2008 when I was leaving employment. I left employment in 2009. So at the point at which I was convinced about what I wanted to do, I registered the business. And Pinkfoot Digital has been a creative design agency. I think just kutumia tu majina ya kawaida, most of the work we've done has been anchored on graphic design. Of course, the word graphic design has evolved over the years, but I will use it in this context because it is a term that most people will understand. Some people may call it creative design, some people may call it visual communication, but for the purpose of this video today, let me use the word graphic design. So we have Photomagic Studio, which does photo and video work, and then we have Pinkfoot Digital, which does visual communication design. And when we started, things were very different. I mean, everything that we designed was designed for printing. Ukimaliza kazi ya design, lazima iende River Road ama iende industrial area. And for some clients, even go out of the country for printing, Dubai, India, wherever, later on China. Every design that we did, 95% was for printing. Ukifanya annual report, inaenda print. Ukidesign poster, inaenda color separation, and then it is printed. Point of sale poster. Of course, if you design a magazine, it will be printed. If you design an advert, it will be printed. And things were very different then. Things moved very slowly. Things, you had to think about color separation. Our language was, is the artwork print ready? The approval processes, everything. And between that time and now, when we're talking about 2025, 2026, heading into 2027, oh, how things have changed. Everything has been dismantled, and we have new sheriffs in town when we think about production, when you think about visual communication, when you think about social media, when you think about YouTube, websites, apps, everything has changed. And so the video today, I want to take time and just share how the transformation from your annual report printing to 15-second reels and social media posters being churned out in 3 minutes, what this change has been like. So for the next 10, 12, 15 minutes, I want to take some time and just share how the history, even in our business, both Pinkfoot Digital and Photomagic Studio, we have seen the change when we were designing for magazines, newsletters, annual reports, and branded material, and point of sale posters, and pull-up banners, and flyers that have to be stamped by the county government so that they can have the license to be distributed. And today, clients, they are thinking more about how are we going to live stream, where are the rest of the reels, And where is the poster that we asked for 30 minutes ago? It needs to go up right now. And we need to throw it to WhatsApp groups and WhatsApp channels. The speed has changed. The tools have changed. The platforms have changed. We are talking about a time when distribution was not very important, when speed was not very important. It could take several months to approve something. It could take 1-2 months to approve the final report or an annual report or a magazine or a newsletter. And today, everything is happening very, very, very fast. The other thing is we have found ourselves in a situation where we had two entities, Photo Magic Studio and Pinkfoot Consult Limited, and eventually we have found ourselves in a situation where their roles have collapsed into one. Because on one side, we are doing static design, and on the other side, we have to translate the static design into motion, into video, into reels, into podcasts. And we are also finding cross-pollination from the podcast. We have to extract static posters. We have to do some quote posters. We have to design thumbnail for the posters. So it has become a very gray area, and we don't know where the difference has come in. So let's take some time and look at this journey and see how much things have changed, and also look at some of the things that fundamentally, as a communication space, as a public relations space, as a media space, there is also a lot that has not changed and remains a very core pillar of how we operate as far as we are dealing with visual communication. So first point I want to share with you guys is that when we started out, we used to deal with projects kubwa. You're dealing with this campaign. So, you're dealing maybe with a big advertising campaign. So let's do the billboards, and then let's do those streets. We used to call them adopter lights, those street poles that have adverts on them. And then let's also do some big billboards that will go into the city hoppers and Kenya Bus Service and other public service vehicles. And then we are going to have a wall wrap somewhere in a construction site, and then we'll have a newspaper advert. Things were big. And once you have the main artwork, you just resize it to fit the billboard, resize it to fit kwa city hopper, resize it to fit on a mural in the office, and everything was big. And the campaign started months before, and it was a long journey. And then come to today, everything is so broken up into very small pieces. And then we're also dealing with a lot of speed, Everything is done within a few days. Everything is done within 1 week. Sometimes everything is done within hours. And those days of running campaigns that want to run for months and have to start last year and they are still running into the second, those days are gone. Those days are gone. And what you have to do is that you have campaigns and communication strategies that keep evolving. You have one campaign when you started in January until April, but what you started in January and April, it keeps morphing. It is very fluid. Midway, we might decide, okay, we are not doing this and we are moving like this, and everything moves very, very, very fast. We're talking about daily cycles. We're talking about weekly cycles at most. And that means that where we are today, we are not designing for moments anymore. We are not designing for moments. We are dealing with content systems. We are dealing with social media posts across 3, 4, 5 channels, sometimes even 6 if you put YouTube in that category. As you design for systems, you're thinking about how are we going to extract a blog post? How are we going to extract a newsletter? How are we going to extract carousels? How are we going to extract reels? How are we going to have social media posters? How are we going to have things distributed on a WhatsApp channel or on WhatsApp broadcasts? There is so much coming out of one message, and that's what we are dealing with today. So the fundamental thing about that change is that you cannot think in a silo. You cannot think in one media format, you cannot think about one message. Or even if you have one message, you have to craft it for Twitter, for TikTok, for Instagram, for a LinkedIn article, for your website. You're everywhere. You're everywhere talking about the same thing, but through different ways, through different formats, through different kinds of wording, through different kinds of structure. You have to think about the short attention span, and you have to think about the person who has 10 minutes. You have to think about the person who will watch the video. You have to think about the person who is ready to read your article on LinkedIn. If there is one thing that we are still trying to catch up with in this digital era, is speed. The speed at which we have to churn out content. The speed at which we have to keep up with the quickly changing algorithms, social media platforms, technology. Don't even get to artificial intelligence, because AI imetuhemesha sana sana as an industry and everywhere. So we are talking about a transformation from permanent things in the print era to a digital era where everything changes every day, every week, every month. I cannot even say every year, because before a year is over, things have changed so much. I also want to talk about coming from an era when printing required a lot of slow red tape approval. And today, clients are approving everything on WhatsApp, not even on email. I'm talking about WhatsApp phone approval for our content and digital era and kind of ecosystem. If you have a reel that needs to go up in the next 1 hour, there is no time for email. It will be sent on WhatsApp, it will be shared in the office, and everybody who needs to give their comment, they will do that. Maybe what needs to take longer to get approved is a YouTube video, but even then, it has to move very fast. So what used to take 3 months then, it's now taking 3 hours, perhaps ikienda sana 3 days. And we actually have not yet changed fast enough to keep up with the speed that digital media content demands in terms of approval, in terms of working very fast. But thank God for AI that a lot of these tasks are becoming a little bit easier, faster, and even more efficient. As a teacher of photography, graphic design, videography, I find myself telling my students, do not call yourself a graphic designer. Neither should you call yourself a photographer or a videographer. You are a communication professional. The reason I say that is because today, design is no longer being done for aesthetics, for the beauty, for the creativity. Back then, ukidesign poster ulikuwa ongeza kitu, ongeza roiko, ongeza aroma, wacha ikae poa, make it look sexy, etc., etc. Today, we design for communication, we design for conversion, we design for engagement, we design for reach. So when you're doing your outputs in any visual format, the first question you have to ask yourself, is it going to stop the scroll? Is it going to help us sell? Is it going to help us get followers? Is it going to help us get engagement? Because then if it doesn't, it means it has failed. You see, we are coming from an era where a lot of output, design was about output. Design your poster, ikae poa, iende print, design your cover, a newsletter, what, it goes. But now, when you design about the poster, that poster has an action to it. When you design a newsletter, you must have how many people clicked, how many people followed, how many people opened the lead and put their number and put their email. We're talking about lead generation here. If you're thinking about video, we are talking about how many views did we get? The thumbnail, can it attract attention on YouTube? All those things. They have all become squarely communication function tools. The aesthetics, and that is why you find that we have really to disengage in terms of visual communication from a lot of aesthetics, Function. I have always told my graphic design students that function in visual communication beats aesthetics. Now in the digital era, that is even more true than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. That when you design your banner on your social media page, when you have a story video, when you design your thumbnail, does the thumbnail capture the attention? Does the cover of your newsletter or publication capture the attention? Does your infographic simplify the message, or does it complicate it? So you find that the function of seeking engagement, reach, conversion has gone up the ladder and become perhaps the most important thing when we are crafting, when you are putting together our visual communication materials, be it video reels, be it a podcast, be it an article that has to go to a website, because you have to ask yourself, does this headline of this article grab my attention? Because you're competing against so much. And when you post it on a WhatsApp group, does the headline on the preview of your blog post, does it get my attention? Competing there with reels from politicians and comedians and dancers. So the function of the whole communication infrastructure or ecosystem has gone up to number one in terms of the needs or the requirements of visual communication. So the brands that win today don't just design static stuff. They have to produce. If you want to be competitive in the marketplace, you have to learn to take advantage of the duality of static designs, which is what most graphic design work outputs, and multimedia production. So you have to do an Easter poster, but it will even be better if you can just do a selfie video and give a message about Easter. You can design your annual report and publish the whole 100 pages on your website. But it doesn't hurt if you can extract 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 reels that give a summary of that annual report. So you will do your podcast, but then you will find yourself extracting posters about what the messages in the podcast are. You could have a conference that is live streaming, but you will find very useful to extract quotes from keynote speeches in that conference and put them in static posters. So you have to have a multimedia approach in your messaging as a brand, as a company, as a commercial entity, as an NGO, so that your messaging, your PR, your media presence can be strong. And you find that today, the challenge we are dealing with is distribution. I have to keep saying that. The biggest challenge that most of the brands, most of you in corporate communication, most of you in advertising and marketing, and even those who are in sales and have been pulled, there is a lot of gray areas in the job descriptions and the roles. So even some people who are in sales are very keen on nini tumepost, wanasema nini, what are we planning to do next week? You have to realize that the biggest problem we have is distribution and reach to the audiences that we want. So if you want to be very active on TikTok, then you have to do a little bit more of reels and videos. So if you want to share your long form content, then YouTube is your playground. If you want to share written content, then LinkedIn and a little bit of Facebook might be what you want to do. So it's very important that we appreciate that a multimedia approach is what we need today as compared to back then, when we could just, do one format and we are okay. And this is where I will mention that for the longest time, Photomagic Studio, our video and photo company, has been running on its own. And then we have Pinkfoot Digital doing its graphic design work and related on the side. And tumefika mahali, we cannot even tell who is doing what. Even one of our clients who we started with on video eventually gave us graphic design work, and everything still comes through Photomagic. But essentially, that should have been a function of Pinkfoot Digital, which is a creative design side. Lakini sahi kazi za zote mbili zimeingiana that it becomes very hard for us to separate the two. But the good thing is that all the design work that we have been doing, now we are able to amplify it using the strengths of Photomagic Studio. We are able to do a little bit of motion graphics. We are able to add an audiovisual aspect to static kind of visual design work and breathe life to it, make it audiovisual, engage more senses, as it were, when you want to engage different kind of audiences on different kind of platforms. I will not hesitate to tell you something that whether you're dealing with a printed report or a 15 seconds reel, if the message is not clear, then whatever you're doing is going to fail. If what you're saying, if your message is not consistent, cohesive, coherent, then I think you'll have failed in terms of packaging and presenting and distributing your message. I'm saying this because this is the one thing that in the course of my career, in the course of running my business, I have seen will not change. If I look at your reels on TikTok and I read your article on LinkedIn and visit your website, and then I go to your YouTube channel and I look at your Facebook banner, and there is no consistency, there is no clarity of message, then I think we have failed. So we may have seen a lot of transformation in this space of visual communication, branding, market communication, integrated messaging. But one thing that will never change, especially in the corporate space, in the business space, is brand consistency, is messaging and tone, is even how we do the colors. If I look at your poster and I look at your reel and don't see consistency, then there is a problem. If I read your article or if I look at your newsletter and I find myself confused in terms of the source of this message or the tone of the message or the kind of target audience that it is looking for, regardless of the platform, regardless of the kind of message that you have, the brand, the message, the tone has to be consistent. So we may dealing with unajua kama vile tunasemanga ukiingia Gekomba is chaotic, kama Marikiti or any other market is very chaotic. Yes, the digital space, the social media space, it's very chaotic. But I believe it is the work of the professionals who are involved, whether they're photographers, whether the content planners, whether they're the community managers, whether it's the corporate affairs and the corporate affairs and the communication managers who, or the social media people, or the graphic designers, or the video editors, or the motion graphic animators. Everybody has to be aligned in terms of brand consistency, in terms of messaging, in terms of understanding who our target audience is, in terms of understanding what is the brand tone. And that's why, again, I say, if the person taking pictures with their phone or the person interviewing people in the street for a campaign or the community manager on the social media platforms does not understand why we are here, why this company exists, why this NGO exists, why this business exists, then there is going to be a lot of discordant kind of messaging and activities, and definitely we are going to have chaos. So let's strive to have aligned objective, aligned messaging, aligned brand standards, aligned tone of voice, and so many other things. And I believe that the messages we send out are going to have the impact, the engagement, the reach that we intend. This is one of the hardest facts to share because if attention is a new currency, then whatever you're trying to create, whatever content you're trying to share out there is not competing against your competitor brands. You're actually competing with everything that is on my phone. When you send out your corporate communication, whatever it is, whether it's a blog post, whether it's a newsletter, a static poster, a reel, anything, you are competing against anything that can appear on my phone. I have your major and Colo's TikTok challenges. We have our very good dancers. We have skits. We have a violent video. We have sports. We have our Champions Leagues updates. Everything that you're trying to compete with. That is your competition, not your competing brands. So that means that even bring it nearer home. We are talking about a Kenyan audience that is digital first and mobile first. So they consume a lot of content on the mobile phone. So the attention economy is ruthless. That is why sometimes we tell you that even our content approach has to be ruthless. Because you can imagine how many things on the scroll are trying to compete with just your boring, serious content that you want me to get attention for. So that means that we have to work harder, we have to be more aggressive, we have to be more creative to stop the scroll, to grab the attention of our audiences, to really compete with everything else, especially anything that is around infotainment or entertainment. We have to be extremely aggressive in terms of creativity, packaging, distribution, and everything else around it, so that we overcome the competition that we have on our small screens. And let's not forget that the small screen has its own dynamics. We consume everything on the go, whether ni kwa matatu, whether it's on the queue, whether we are waiting somewhere in a reception. I'm sure even some of us use the phones in the toilet. So competition is very high. So where does that leave you in terms of the content that you want to churn out in this attention economy? It means that then for the longest time, distribution has been the challenge. But, you had the flyers that you wanted to do, you had TV and radio, you had, you want to use billboards and all this outdoor advertising, everything. But the challenge right now, attention is a challenge. You don't have a problem. I mean, you have YouTube if you want to get there. It's free. You have TikTok, you have Facebook, you have Twitter X, you have Instagram, you have website and a blog, you have WhatsApp, and a few others that are not very common, but they are still there. The Substack, you have the newer platforms that are coming up. You have all that. But the problem is not distribution. The problem is attention. How do you get the attention of the target audience that you're looking for in all those platforms in a scene that is very chaotic, in an era that has too much going on? But you have to stop me in my tracks. You have to steal my attention from other more interesting things so that I can get attention for your products, for your services, for your campaign, for your cause if you're working for an NGO, and those kind of things. So we have to work a little bit harder on how to get the attention of our target audiences. So I think that's it. Having taken the time to show you that the tools have changed, the platforms have changed drastically, and definitely the speed has changed. But then fundamentally, the institutions, the businesses, the products, the brands that are going to win in this digital era are not the ones that are chasing trends. Nope. It's the ones that have very serious, well thought out, strategic, deliberate, well planned communication systems. I have to shout from the rooftops all the time that our digital media communication it's an ecosystem. It has to run on a certain kind of infrastructure. It has to be strategic. It has to be planned, deliberate. the institutions, the brands that are going to build their communication, especially visual communication, around that well-structured system, and have to keep adapting. They have to keep adapting. They are conscious of the changes that are in the industry. Those are the ones that are going to win. And that is why, for us at Pinkfoot Digital and Photomagic Studio, the 18 years have brought us to a point where we have coalesced the activities that we do for the betterment of pursuing excellence for our clients, for efficiency, for speed, for a unified multimedia approach to digital media. And from that kind of a standpoint, we know that we are not strangers to a digital world, to a digital first world, to a mobile first world, to a media first kind of world. And it is my hope that this video has been of use to you, has helped you to become more alert, to have a deeper understanding, and not even just deeper, but a more structured understanding of the digital space that we are operating in today. So that's it for now. Feel free to comment on this video. Feel free to subscribe. Also share with other people that you believe this video will be of importance to. And keep checking us out on our social media platform across all of them, on X, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Facebook. The stuff that we share every day. And we hope and believe that when you craft your messaging, when you make your social media posts, when you do your articles, everything is going to achieve the objectives that it was intended to achieve. Asante sana, and see you on to the next one.